Yeah. Yo. SJS in the building. In the building. In the bazilding. Got money. Give us money, we don't got no money. Said, give us money, we don't got no money. We don't even got Republican credits. Got no money, we don't even got Republican credits. Which ain't good on Tatooine. Trying to buy myself a starship. Try to buy myself a starship. Don't want to slut myself out to the huts for a starship. I'd rather just pay it like a good citizen. So I need a job, so can I get some money? So I can get a starship to get the fuck out of Tatooine. Not gonna be mean, but this place is filthy. Have you ever seen it clean? No, it's a bunch of sand. It's a bunch of goddamn sand. What do you want me to do? It's just a bunch of goddamn sand. And that just makes me mad, cause I hate sand, cause I'm Anakin. And I'm about to fuck that mannequin, cause I'm mad. And I'm really kinda horny. I'm a preteen. Yeah, I'm really kinda horny. I'm a preteen. Until I saw that Padme, and it just made my dick go, hey! What the happening here? What's happening here? I'm gonna marry that girl and then subsequently be part of her death. Not directly, but pretty close to directly. Cause that shit be Obi-Wan's fault. Yeah, Padme's death be Obi-Wan's fault. Told you that death be Obi-Wan's fault. Don't blame me, cause it was Obi-Wan's fault. Obi-Wan's to blame for everything. Yeah, Obi-Wan's to blame for everything. Cause Qui-Gon got me out of the jungle. And the jungle was Tatooine, which is sand. All sand. It's a sandy jungle. You know how cities are the concrete jungle? Well, it's a sandy jungle. Most honestly, it's a sandy jungle. Sandy Koufax. Apparently, inherently, you're wearing these Jedi robes because you know that your dope flow flows. Yeah. Ignite my lightsaber, take out Kiadi Mundi, then Ayla Sakura, so I can secure a place in this empire. And I'm gonna eat this apple. It's an Empire apple. This is the only apples that we're ever allowed to eat in the Empire, are Empire apples. And I really like Gala, but I really wish I had another apple. I really wish I had another apple. Give me a Macintosh on the Granny Smith. I don't even have a granny. I'm just Granny Smith. Because I was a slave, so all I know was my mom and there was no dad. Except my dad was Darth Plagueis. Really mad. You hate to see it. You hate to see it. You hate to see it. You hate to see all of it. And then when you see all of it, you're like, whoa, what's all of this? I'm mad. And I'm Anakin fucking a panicking. But no, I'm not panicking. Because I'm grammatically in standard. And I'm setting a standard because I'm going to rule this place one day or die trying. And now we're going to go with rankings. Well, what do you know? There's a knock at the door. Allow me to open it in the form of a phone call. I wonder who could be at the door. Ring, ring. Ring, ring. Allow me to just go answer the door. Allow me to answer the door here. Let's see what's going on. Who could it possibly be? Is anyone there? Hello!
What?
What? In your butt. Hello! Both of you, guests in my house. Welcome in. That's right.
That was such a fail, Joshua.
That's your name is, what's that, Clark?
I don't know.
Yeah, that's Clark, and I believe up there is, Skylar. Hi, Skylar, come on in.
Did you challenge me to a duel?
No, but would you like a cold beverage? Can I sell you?
Today's gonna be insanity, isn't it?
Can I sell you some death sticks?
No, I want to go home and rethink my life.
Yeah, well, but you just got here, and what are we doing here?
We're 69 standing by.
Are we ranking? Are we just ranking as in we just all smell and we could use a shower?
Yes.
No.
Maybe.
No, we are destroying Star Wars fandom while we rank their movies.
All right. So, Star Wars fans, you suck. Got us off to a hot start, didn't I?
I mean, nothing you said was inaccurate.
All right.
In fact, it's very, very accurate.
It is. So accurate that we're going to discuss it in detail for a long-ass time.
the Star Wars fandom is the actual worst fan base of all time.
And that's saying something because pro wrestling exists.
Yeah, that is true.
They're pretty close. They're pretty close, and they're actually quite similar.
The Sonic fandom is up there, but they're mostly just, like, sexually weird about it.
I feel like they've kind of, like, stopped that, though. Well, not the sexual part. I can't speak to the sexual part. But at least, like, they have not been as rowdy as recently. You know, back when, you know, the standard was Sonic and the Black Knight and the secret rings and all that, they had every reason to be out and about.
I mean, I feel like it's been toned down ever since the 2 movies came out, honestly.
Yeah, honestly.
Yeah.
Well, it was for a while, but then the test footage of Frontiers came out, and then everyone started whining and moaning.
I mean, no one's going to be happy about
anything.
Anything.
Nintendo ruined Sonic. Sound familiar?
Shut the fuck up, Sean.
Sound familiar?
You will not bitch talk my baby.
No, I'm not. No, I'm saying that as a joke because there are parallels between the Sonic universe and the Star Wars universe.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Just don't talk about Nintendo, man. Mario's my man.
Well, the Mario movie's coming out eventually. I am kind of interested in seeing how that goes.
Yeah, I can't wait to see Chris Pratt.
Of all the people they could get to be Mario, it's Chris Pratt.
And Jack Black.
I'm looking forward to Jack Black as Bowser. That's going to be a hoot and a hanny.
That's going to be... It's either going to be glorious or terrible, or maybe both at the same time.
I'm hoping for both.
It'll be glorious. He won't give in. No, he won't give in until he's victorious.
I thought you were going to make an Inglourious Bastards joke. But
no.
You swerved me.
I did. And that was such a delayed reaction on that laugh. It was like you both got it, and then you still had to take a second just to process where you remembered that from, because it's been forever since that happened.
We had to process the amount of fuckery that was existing in that moment in time.
Yeah.
There was a lot. There was a metric fuck ton of fuckery right there.
Yeah. So we're ranking these movies, right? That's how it's going, and then
before we get into that, before we get into the rankings, I think shouldn't we go like real quick, just like, how did you discover Star Wars? How did you discover Star Wars? How did I...
All right.
I watched the episodes. Goddamn channel.
So all right, Skylar, what was your first Star Wars movie?
A New Hope when I was 6. It was like, what, 2000 or so? So I watched it. Basically, my dad got a box DVD set of A New Hope, Empire Strikes Back, and Return of the Jedi.
Was it the one that had, like, Darth Vader's head as the box?
Yes.
I had that same set.
My uncle has that, the VHS set.
Yep, that set's legendary.
We got the DVD set, and I wore the fucking DVDs out of that thing.
Yeah, same. Well, actually, I had the VHS version, which had like the actual Darth Vader on, like, as the box itself that you lifted up, and you got your 3 VHS tapes, and I wore the teetotal shit out of those.
Yeah, my uncle has those, and we still watch them every once in a while. Return of the Jedi was my first Star Wars movie when I was really little, and then immediately after Return of the Jedi, I watched The Phantom Menace, so I watched them out of order. Yeah. What about you, Sean? What was your first Star Wars movie?
Well, I remember my daddy back in the day, he had them on, like, when they were on, he'd have them on, but it wasn't like a huge deal in our family. But then we went to see The Phantom Menace live. Oh. And that kind of changed everything, you know, because that whole double saber is cool. But in going back and watching the first 3 and then wearing them out, you know, and then, of course, Attack of the Clones came out, and I saw that in theaters. I don't know if I saw Revenge of the Sith in theaters or not. I think I had moved by then.
I did not, because my parents did not take me, because I was not 13, and it was PG-13.
Daring.
Yeah.
But worth it.
Very daring.
In fact, the first Star Wars movie I ever saw in theaters was The Force Awakens.
That's actually pretty cool. To have that be your first. Now it makes your ranking of it much more understandable.
We'll get into
okay. I mean, we can spoil. We'll leave the spoiler behind. So, here, do I want to talk about how we did the rankings?
Skylar, this is your baby, so why don't you cradle it in your mouth and feed it your nipply formula?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Now, let me go ahead and get my nipple out. Joshua, you better get the fuck away from it. Anyways.
I was going to say you could hear him smacking his lips like the Cookie Monster over there.
Nipple, 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 nipple.
N is for nipple. That's good enough for him.
Wow. This is going to go off the rails. Anyway, so what we
Is
did
gonna
was
go. Is going to go off the rails. As in not has already gone.
So what we did is that we each individually ranked the movies 1 through 12. We ranked episodes 1 through 9, and then the 3 standalone movies, Solo, the animated Clone Wars movie, and Rogue One. And we ranked them 1 through 12 individually, and then we put them all together based on our scores, and we got the final total. So there was some controversy with this.
Yeah,
fact,
no one included the holiday special.
Nor was it worthy of inclusion.
No. If the holiday version...
You don't like watching B. Arthur pour liquid into a volcano head person?
That would have been the worst movie had that been on the list.
Yeah, and I feel like we all knew that, so it was like, it might as well have some interesting discrepancies with the major ones.
Also, we couldn't rank it because it doesn't technically count as a movie, but I just want to shout out Genny Torowski for his 2003 Clone Wars TV series.
Yeah, because I've only seen some episodes of it, but every episode I've seen was very fun, and from what I hear, the lore was terrific.
Right,
I've only seen the second half, and I loved it. I've seen bits and pieces of the first half.
The best introduction of General Grievous. Like, the 5 minutes where he basically got to be really fucking badass.
And also, just another shout-out to that series. I want to shout out James Arnold Taylor, who is the guy who actually voiced Obi-Wan in that, and as well as all of the video games that came out around that time. Like in Battlefront 2 and in the Episode 3 Revenge of the Sith, which might be the best Star Wars video game based off the movies.
Or, in my opinion, the best Star Wars game ever made, period.
It's pretty good. It's pretty damn good. If I didn't have a place in my heart for Battlefront 2, I would agree with you.
Also, we have to
Battlefront 2 is also amazing.
Also, we have to shout out Christopher Lee as Count Dooku. Like, I know... We'll get into the movie rankings and why some of the movies he was in was terrible, but Count Dooku, Christopher Lee, he was just a tremendous.
Mm-hmm. He was just a tremendous.
He didn't do much, but what he did was fantastic.
Well, the problem... Well, let's get into it, and we have to start with the worst movie, and universally decided by all three of us, the worst movie was Attack of the Clones, Episode 2.
Now,
yeah,
that wasn't where I put my ranking, because I put one below it, I believe.
So, Josh again had it as his number 12 movie. I ranked it number 10. And Sean, I'm surprised that you actually ranked it pretty high, all things considered. You ranked it as your 9th worst movie.
Well...
when 9th is pretty high.
It's...
Anyways.
Yeah.
So, I mean... The whole thing is, let's go and just talk about it. Josh, again, since you hate the movie the most, why don't you get into it?
Well, all right, let me say this. I think it's a bad movie, but I don't hate it. There's not a Star Wars movie that I hate. There's not like a Star Wars anything that I hate besides the Star Wars fan base.
You have hate, but you don't use it.
Exactly. It's the problems that I have with The Phantom Menace, which we will get to, I feel like are just heavily exacerbated in Episode 2. Number one, it's just kind of boring and meandering. A lot of just nothing happening. Walking and talking, delivering exposition constantly nonstop. Also, Anakin looks like a rapist throughout the entire movie. The look on his face whenever he looks at Padme is just like Stranger Danger vibes. The lightsaber duel between Anakin and Dooku at the end of the movie, I mean, when it's Obi-Wan and Dooku, it's great. When it's Yoda and Dooku, it's phenomenal. When it's Anakin and Dooku, it's the worst lightsaber duel ever, with the worst finish ever. But the last 20 minutes of the movie is, in my opinion, really good. Shmi's death is really good in a very dramatic moment that they immediately cut away from.
Because boy angry.
Yes, because boy angry equals violence equals this movie's PG, cut away quickly. And The Obi-Wan Jango Fett fight was cool, although Jango Fett is the worst bounty hunter ever.
Well, there's a lot of stuff that Jango did prior to the movies if you're one of those Star Wars nerds. Now, this is something that we're going to also have to address before we get any further into this. Everything we say, we are talking specifically about the movies. We do not care about your extra lore that you have spent literally longer of your life than you should have researching so you know every single detail about the universe itself.
I'm going to say this right now. I do not give a single shit about the Star Wars EU.
Because they're going to be like, because you know that we're going to get those people who will be like, actually, if you read the book in page 241 on glossary section F in the footnotes, it says that George Lucas scratched his balls and that meant that Jar Jar wasn't racist.
Jar Jar's a Sith Lord.
Yeah. So we're not going to be doing any of that, okay? So we're just glossing over that, just so you know.
If you want some quality Jango Fett action, play Star Wars Bounty Hunter. That game is awesome.
That game did more for Jango Fett than the movie did.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
I mean, here's the movie made him out to be a bumbling idiot. I mean, assassinate Padme. What do? I'm gonna get my helper to send a worm.
Worms. Not even once.
And then later on, when she's about to reveal who he is, he shoots her with a poisonous dart from across the city. You couldn't have shot Padme with a poisonous dart from across the city? Just saying.
Shh. You stop it. You know, it's amazing that dude, that guy got so many roles because he played Jango Fett and then became a billion different people because they're clones. That's job security right there.
Jango Fett in the Bounty Hunter video game is a ruthless, just awesome, badass character. He's a bumbling moron in Attack of the Clones, and I hate it.
Yeah.
Well, Sean, why don't you talk about the movie and why you hate it?
Well, okay, I put it ninth because there are 3 movies that I thought were worse. Well, 2 movies that I thought were worse, and I did not see the Clone Wars movie. So
the animated one.
Yeah, I did not see the animated movie, so that automatically got 12 on my rankings, so just take that with a grain of salt. But Attack of the Clones was the 3rd worst. Honestly, it wasn't bad. It wasn't, like, horrendously bad. There's... The stuff with Dooku and Yoda is very nice. Very nice. Same with Obi-Wan and Anakin. And honestly, I didn't hate the Anakin fight with Dooku as much because he acted inexperienced, which he was. So now, would I say that I loved the lighting of that? Not really. They tried to do that whole dark light thing, but you really couldn't see Anakin in the color of the red or the blue, so it was like really hard to tell who was who. And I just think the cinematography didn't work there. But the thing that's worse than anything else in that movie is the script. The dialogue is so bad.
I don't like dialogue. It's rough, of course.
It's everywhere.
Hard to speak about.
It's literally like that shy kid who's like kicking the ground in preschool. He's like, well, I don't like sand. And he gets everywhere. Yeah. And Padme's like, oh, but you're hot though.
I'm gonna make out with you.
And also, they spend way too much time doing that. That's, I think, also a big part of the problem, is that they spend way too much time on the romance and not enough on actually, like, developing better parts of the story.
Right. When it comes to this movie and where I had it ranked, because I had it ranked the 10th worst movie, my thing with this is that there's a good movie here. Like, here's the thing. The whole exploration part about who's trying to kill Padme, Obi-Wan searches for the bounty hunter parts of the movie, it's good. I love the chance whenever I get to see Obi-Wan Kenobi played by
Ewan McGregor.
Ewan McGregor is the best thing in the prequels.
Yep, and we'll talk more about him later on in other movies.
Yes.
Of course, the thing with this movie is that every single part with Hayden Christensen and who's the girl that played Amy? I can't remember.
Natalie Portman.
Natalie Portman.
Wow.
Name literally
Star Wars talk. Let's see how much we remember.
Yes.
Because we're just 3 old men talking about the good times.
The The problem with Natalie Portman is that basically her character has to like the weird emo goth kid, and Hayden Christensen is a really inexperienced actor at this point playing the weird emo goth kid. And it's just every single dialogue thing with them is soap opera level terrible.
Yeah.
It distracts from everything that's good about the movie, with the part about Obi-Wan investigating the bounty hunter, finding the clones, dueling Jango Fett on Camino, and then trying to capture him on Geonosis.
I will say, though, that the designs of the worlds were really good in this movie. Just to give it some points why I put it ahead of some of the other movies I chose.
This may be my least favorite Star Wars movie, but again, it does have some solid points in its favor.
The prequels always had very good CGI. I mean, granted, it was in the early 2000s.
Yeah.
And it still holds up pretty well, all things considered.
True.
Like, you can watch it today, and the CGI is very good for the time, and compared to some movies today, it's even better.
Yeah, like, I love the look of all the creatures. Like, the Acklay was one of my favorite creations.
That thing was so cool.
I'm like, that's pretty dope.
Right,
you can fight those in Battlefront 2, and they're the most annoying pieces of garbage in that game.
You get hit by one claw, dead.
Yes.
You're a Jedi, one claw, dead.
And even if you put in the God mode code, which is like you just move the joystick in a certain direction with the buttons, even if you're invincible, they get you. You will not be able to move.
Yeah.
Because they keep trampling you.
Plus, the other thing to Attack of the Clones specifically is that this is the first time we get to see Yoda fighting, and that was awesome.
Yes, that was awesome.
Yeah,
his power, him just absorbing Dooku's lightning and throwing lightning back at, that was awesome. I loved that.
But that went on too long, because they did the force thing with the force push, and then another force push, and then another force push. Like, if they had done like the one object, and then the lightning, and then let's fight this, let's Dooku this out, and then the big finish, that would have been fine. But I thought that they did a little bit too much in the foreplay before they actually got, into the down and dirty.
I will say, my least favorite thing in the entire movie, again, the ending of the Anakin Dooku fight. If you watch closely, when Dooku lobs his arm off, Hayden just stops moving. He doesn't knock the lightsaber out of his hand, then cut his arm off. Anakin T-poses, and then Dooku cuts his arm off, and that's it. And the choreography at that part is so atrocious.
It had its ups and downs. I mean, it's
probably the worst. It's probably the worst choreography of the prequel films, but it is what it is.
Yeah, redeeming qualities to it, but there was better to be made.
Yes.
Yep. Now we're gonna move on. And surprisingly, we're going to get to the controversy right now. There was a tie. Ties exist? Yes, ties do exist.
TIE fighters.
We have a tie.
I don't wear them, but...
We have a tie. Rise of Skywalker, Episode 9, and the animated Clone Wars movie both tied for number 10.
It makes me sad.
Well, I would say that the Clone Wars probably has to go to 10 just because I didn't watch Clone Wars, so like that almost takes me out of that equation. So, in that respect, if we're going to do a tiebreaker, I think that Rise of Skywalker goes 11 and then Clone Wars 10.
Right. Now, Josh, again, loves the sequel trilogy. He likes Episode 7, 8, and 9. Me and Sean are middling to bad on those movies. Because here's our rankings. Joshua, where did you have Rise of Skywalker? Number 8.
Yeah, I had Skywalker number 8.
I had it 12, and Sean had it 10. So, Josh, again, tell us why you like Rise of Skywalker.
I'm not going to lie. As time has gone on, I've gotten more and more mixed about the movie. There are things in that movie that I adore. There are things in Episode 9 that I adore. And there are things in that movie that I have really grown to hate. The things that I really don't like in that movie, for one, the first half of the movie is just foot on the gas, going at 190 miles per hour without taking a single breath. The pacing in the first half is very jarring. It just jumps everywhere all at once. It's like Star Wars ADHD. To me, it's enjoyable, but it's still very noticeable that the pacing it feels like watching like a very chopped up movie. Which, if we found out like it had like if there was like a J.J. Abrams cut, it would not surprise me because it feels very like just cut up. The second half I like, though, but I'll get to that. The main thing in this movie that I really don't like, they do not explain how Palpatine's alive.
Nope.
They give, not throughout the entire movie. And that's the main thing I wanted to know when I went to the theater to see the movie. And there's like one or two lines. You have Palpatine referencing episode 3 with the path to the dark side. He says the dark side powers are unnatural line. And that's it. And then you have Charlie from Lost saying, cloning, secrets only the Sith knew. And then you have the now iconic and memeable line of Poe saying, somehow Emperor Palpatine survived. Script writing 101.
Nailed it.
So,
well,
yeah.
You want to know my nicknames for this movie and also The Last Jedi?
Yes. Shitty and poopy.
No,
Save that for the other channel.
So, Last Jedi I nicknamed The Last Plot Hole, and then Episode 9 I named The Rise of the Plot Holes.
But the thing that makes me the angriest, they explain in detail how Palpatine came back in the book. I shouldn't have to do homework to understand a movie.
But Josh, again, if you read the second comic of the second edition abridged of the fourth edition of the Magical...
Care. Explain. There's, like, in the book, when Rey goes to Exegol, which is an awesome looking... Like, everything in the movie looks awesome. The CGI, the cinematography in that movie is top-notch. But when she goes to Exegol, there's like a flashback of how Palpatine survived in the book. There's no flashback in the movie, because the movie explains nothing, and that makes me just so irritated. But there's a lot of things that I like in Episode 9. I love the action is great. I like what they do with Rey. I go back and forth on her being a Palpatine. I'll take that more than her being a nobody that's just powerful for no reason. And I like the first half of the second act, and I love the third act. I very much love the third act. And the scene with Kylo Ren and Han Solo, every time I watch it, it almost brings me to tears, because I just love that scene.
Well...
So, I'm very mixed on that movie. I still like it. I used to love it, but now I don't really love it that much anymore. I'm just kind of like, eh.
Yeah. Sky, why don't you go next? Because I went second the last time. And this is your least favorite movie, so...
And I can completely shit on this movie, because I actually think this is a terrible movie. Fans?
Go on.
Getting in charge of the direction of the movie and making a fanfic. That's what Rise of Skywalker is. Because Rise of Skywalker is a bunch of Star Wars fan fiction that is put together into one of the worst movies ever, saved by its giant production value. Palpatine comes back for no fucking reason. Has Rey as a granddaughter.
Actually, if you read the book in page 424, section B, page 12, you'll know that Palpatine came back and did.
You know, you sound like the Young Bucks the more you talk like that in unison.
Continue.
Anyways, my point with Rise of Skywalker is that those plot holes. Finn is wasted in the movie. His one thing is to say, Rey, I love, Rey, I love, Rey, I love, and then Rey falls in love with Kylo Ren, aka Ben.
Also, we didn't need Finn to be force sensitive. Just saying.
It didn't add anything to the movie.
It was just, and also he's force sensitive for some reason.
Again, the whole thing of we have to do all the fan fiction shit, so that way we can get the fan geeks in there to say, "Oh, my movie's come to life." It's just the action is cool, the CGI is cool for the most part. There are a couple places where it's kind of but the writing is terrible. General Hux turning out to be a spy and then getting shot the next scene we see him.
I'm the spy.
Bang.
Dead.
Somehow Palpatine returned. I'm the spy. You are a Palpatine. The script writing in this movie.
Bad.
It's not very good.
Bad.
And also, all the stuff with Carrie Fisher, I know she died, but you didn't have to have Leia's character in this movie, especially with the big sin of Last Jedi, which we'll get to in a little bit.
I mean,
Well,
they tried. I'm not going to get mad at them for what they did with Leia in Episode 9, because they did not have hardly anything to work with.
they did what they could.
They did the best that they could with what they had, and what they had was not much.
But you shouldn't have included her anyways, and you could have easily written her off.
Well, that's something. So, then it comes to me. The Rise of Skywalker. Okay, I'll tell you my biggest gripe first, and then I'll talk about it as a whole. The ending of this movie was so stupid. The ending, I just like, oh, Palpatine's a dirty name. I'm going to be somebody I'm completely unrelated to. And that's
Rey Skywalker
makes me a babyface? Yeah? Yeah?
Just think about it. And I love this meme. Palpatine's line took over the Skywalkers and is now using the Skywalker name.
But here's the thing.
The bad guy won in the end.
But here are my rest of my problems with this movie. The Last Jedi set up a lot of things that they could have paid off and didn't with this movie.
Because the Last Jedi made a bunch of people mad, and now we have to make them and everyone else happy all at the same time.
Well, that was my big problem, is this more felt like, oh no, let's just undo some stuff and kind of clean up our mistakes, rather than just saying, fuck it, we've come this far, might as well just go balls to the wall with this, I'm Disney stuff. And some of this stuff just didn't make any sense. First of all, who did Palpy fuck?
Okay, so...
Or actually, he learned how to do the clone generation thing like they made Anakin with Darth Plagueis, if you ever heard the story, and he ended up having to do it, and then Rey got made.
Sean, the actual explanation is his son is actually a clone that had no powers, that was decided, I'm a good guy now, and I'm going to have a girl. And Palpatine's like, that's technically my granddaughter now, I guess.
Okay, can I just say something real quickly?
Again, not explained in the movie.
Can I just ask a question?
Yeah.
Do you think a Sith Lord could get pussy?
Hell yeah, power's sexy, man.
I mean, you could use the Force to trick someone into having sex with you. I mean, if you can't do that,
but you may not even need to.
Excuse for a Sith Lord.
You may not even need to.
Kylo Ren's lightsaber, I wanted to give him my pussy.
You drop.
Okay, no.
You drop down on you're walking through Coruscant, and it says like, hey, I hear you lead the Galactic Senate. Is the Senate as big as it says it is?
I am the Senate.
Your lightsaber's red.
See?
Does the blade match the drapes?
See? There you go. There you go.
We are worse than the Star Wars fandom.
Yeah, no, we're adding logic to this, which is not good.
It makes no sense for him to have a clone that has no powers and is also like, I'm a good guy.
It's like, it just didn't make any sense for that. Although I will say one of my favorite scenes is when Rey shoots the lightning out of her hand and blows up Chewie, and everyone in the theater is like, "Oh shit!"
Yes, that actually got me. But they were like, actually, Chewie's alive. Like one scene later.
Yeah, because Disney can't kill anybody unless they're already dead.
Can you imagine if they actually went through with it and Chewie died?
I
think
would have
added some weight to the movie.
It would have added some weight to the movie. I might have been a little more intrigued by it, but
yeah.
But anyway, so then it's just that this was not the payoff to all the setup. You know, if you're gonna set all that stuff up, you can't just be like, "Oh no, my bad," and "Oh no, my bad." The movie. That's what this was, and it just.
Yes.
It didn't pay anything off. I don't think the CGI was enough. I think the whole thing, I'm all the Sith and I'm all the Jedi, was stupid. Because it didn't make... They could
have, instead of just voices, had, a bunch of Force ghosts in the background and you see them giving Rey power.
Yeah.
That would have been cool. With all the old actors, that would have been cool instead of just their voices.
And I will say this, too. Disney went way overboard with the deco fade. I'm sorry. I turned good. I'm emo boy. I love you. I disappear. What an ending. Oh, man, that's the love story we wanted. Boy, that was just bad. I did like the scene on the Death Star, the broken Death Star. That was cool.
Yeah, agreed. I love that part. Although the knife showing the exact location of where they're supposed to go is a little, like, to say that's contrived is like saying water is sometimes damp.
Yeah, it's like it had its moments, but like for the most part,
definitely had moments.
For the most part, it was just a disappointment. I kind of left it going, well, that didn't really answer any of the questions I had. I mean, I thought that there was, we'll talk about Last Jedi in a little bit, but The Last Jedi had some things that they set up where if they had gone another direction with it, they could have made a really good third movie. But instead, we got the oops, my bad movie, and it just fell completely flat.
And this movie, again, this was directed by J.J. Abrams. There's a script for the Colin Trevorrow one, because he was supposed to, Colin Trevorrow, Colin Trevorrow.
Must have been a shitty movie.
Yeah. But there's a script floating around about his original episode 9, which would have been called Duel of the Fates, where there's no Palpatine, Rey gets a double-bladed lightsaber, and the ending is completely different. I haven't read that yet, but I've heard a few things about it. I mean, part of me kind of wishes we got that movie. I'm okay with what we got. It could have been better, but, it is what it is.
Yeah.
I feel like because of what happened with Last Jedi, Rise of Skywalker got a bad deal, but it's almost like they did Last Jedi and then decided, you know what, we're going to double down with Rise of Skywalker. So that's where it ended up being.
See, it's funny because I feel like they did the exact opposite. I feel like they folded with a lot of stuff with Last Jedi and just tried to start over. And I think that's why it also felt disjointed. It's like, I think Disney doubled down on the We're Disney part of it, but I don't think that necessarily they followed through on things and doubled down on Last Jedi in ways that would have continuity-wise might have made more sense.
Yeah.
Right. Anyways, we'll go ahead and move past that one. Now, you did not watch the animated Clone Wars movie, Sean. So you're going to go ahead and take a powder for 5 minutes.
I'm going to go smoke some Triscuits.
I thought you were going to say he was going to go smoke some powder.
No, that's dangerous.
Anyways, so Joshua, you had it ranked 11th. I had it ranked 7th.
Damn.
I put it up pretty high.
I think it's better than Attack of the Clones, but again, there's not a Star Wars movie that I hate. There's not a Star Wars movie that I think is just absurdly terrible. This one, my biggest problem with it is it feels like 4 episodes of the Clone Wars stapled together, because that's exactly what it is. Because the story is, they had 4 episodes of the Clone Wars finished, and they were going to we're going to make this a TV show. And George Lucas comes in and says, this should really just be a movie. And they're like, I don't know if that's a good idea, George. And George Lucas is like, I'm George Lucas. Do it. Do it now. So they did it, and it just felt very... It should have been 4 episodes to start the Clone Wars TV show. I don't know why he wanted it to be a movie. I guess the further the scope and the reach of the Clone Wars that was about to start, I just felt like it was a bad move in retrospect.
It is. Now, the animated Clone Wars movie was started by director Dave Filoni, and it introduced a lot of it. Basically, the reason why they wanted to make it a movie was that they wanted to have a big introduction to the widest possible audience before they turned it into the TV show, so they could get people to watch the movie and say, hey, there's going to be a TV show with all this exact stuff that's going on in the TV show. For me, the Clone Wars animated TV show is one of the best contributions to Star Wars lore. And let me go ahead and say this tangent before I move on to my thing, right?
Yeah.
It helped introduce a lot of characters to the canon that became iconic in many ways and have continued to contribute to the series. Obviously, Ahsoka Tano being the biggest one. Clone Captain Rex. Everything with the Jedi, and particularly learning about Jedi who we didn't get a chance to see in the movies. I mean, how can you not watch the stories that are going on with some of the Jedi and not love them? Like, personally,
Kit Fisto, I would love to just go out and get some McDonald's with Kit Fisto. That'd be fun.
Right, Kit Fisto, Ayla Secura. We got to see a lot of stuff with Ki-Adi-Mundi. We got to see General Luminara. We got to see a lot of things. We got to learn more about the Sith. We got to learn more about everything. And eventually the Clone Wars TV show eventually spawned even more shows like The Bad Batch. It helped provide the context for the Clone Wars and show us the Clone Wars.
Star Wars Rebels.
Yep, Star Wars Rebels. And the biggest thing is that it made us love the Jedi characters, like the side Jedi characters. Again, like Kit Fisto, Kid Mundi, General Luminara, Ayla Secura, all those characters. So that when Order 66 happens in Revenge of the Sith, it hits even harder because you grew up with these Jedi. You love them. Like, watching the Wolfpack gun down their Jedi commander, I can't remember his name, damn it.
Rex fighting back tears when he's holding his gun at Ahsoka, it just hits you.
It hits you. I can't remember his name, damn it. Ahsoka Tano's the person that brought him to the person that brought her to the temple.
Plo Koon.
Plo Koon. Damn it! I can't believe I blacked out on Plo Koon's name. Now
his head is a brain with ears
and a really sweet mask.
Yes.
And a really a badass voice. But again, you notice that I'm talking about the TV show a lot, right?
Yeah.
The movie was not particularly great because the movie had to fight a lot of things that were issues in terms of what they had, because this was Dave Filoni and their crew's first project. They didn't have a lot of assets that they could, use.
Yeah.
The animation in spots is really weird, although eventually you get used to it. But the biggest problem with this movie is that the plot is really disjointed and at points is very boring, despite the fact that there's a lot of battle scenes that are happening in it.
The battle scenes, although sometimes the animation's a little janky, the fighting is fun to watch. I love the Obi-Wan Asajj Ventress duel.
Yeah, like that was legitimately a really cool duel. It was fun watching the characters interact with each other and fight each other, but again, some of this stuff was just terrible plot devising and plot planning. And also, some points they're like, you know what, we're just going to do this because why not?
I didn't really care about meeting Jabba the Hutt's cousin or brother, Zero the Hutt.
I mean, it introduced more Hutts, which was kind of cool, but then also kind of like, do we really need to give Jabba the Hutt a son?
Yeah. So that we have to babysit for the rest of the movie.
Who fucked Jabba the Hutt?
Palpatine.
Behold, Slug Sith Lord.
Palpatine, what you want, yes.
So wait, does that make Rey the granddaughter of Palpatine and Jabba the Hutt?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Because it never was explained if Jabba the Hutt was a male or female, so...
Androgynous.
Listen. Who are you? Rey. Rey who? Rey the Hutt.
Oh shit, right this way. Bring her to the palace.
Yeah.
Sit down, we're all yours now. Oh, don't.
Oh, God.
Oh, word? Anyway. So.
I got nothing to top that. But yeah, I mean, the Clone Wars animated movie was okay, but it has a place, and it's at the bottom of our list.
If you watch Sean, have you seen the animated Clone Wars show?
I've seen a few episodes.
Okay.
I haven't seen it all the way through,
but I recommend. But the first couple seasons, the episodes are out of chronological order.
Well, that's the seasons I saw, because it was all like, here's one here, and here's one there, and here's one there, and here's one there.
Right.
You actually have to look up online the actual chronological order of the show to watch it in chronological order, which kind of sucks.
But once you get past season 2's like middle, and they start doing more self-contained stories or arcs, especially when they get to the later seasons, it gets really cool. Like, you get to see the Mandalorians, you get to see Darth Maul come back, you get to see all that wonderful stuff about the galaxy we didn't get to see before.
Yep.
Darth Maul is the most awesome.
I do love that. I do love that design. And that was one of the episodes I saw, was one with him in it.
Oh, yeah.
It's a great design.
And then we get to see Darth Maul and his cousin. We get to see
his brother, Savage Opress.
Savage Opress and Darth Maul versus Emperor Palpatine.
Yes.
And that's a fight where Palpatine basically was like, I'm going to play with you guys, but you all know you're fucked in the end anyway, so...
That's
You are a
Palpy.
friend, but now you are a rival.
Thanks a lot, Sheev.
She's been good.
So
Oh,
what's
God.
next?
What's next?
So the next movie on our ranking is Last Jedi.
Oh.
At what, number 9?
At number 9.
All right. Well, may I start?
Of course.
Okay, this was I put this at number 8 on mine, and I think I was the highest ranked of the three of us for this movie.
Were you actually?
I think so.
Where
No,
did I put it?
no,
No,
I wasn't.
put it at 7.
Joshua had it 7.
No, I wasn't.
I had it 11th, and you had it.
8th.
Why would you have it 8th?
I'm glad you asked, Sky. Let me tell you.
No. Oh God.
So here's
me.
the thing. I saw this movie in theaters twice. Not on purpose, but I wanted to watch it with my ma, and I wanted to watch it with my da. And I did. And I was hoping that the second time I would enjoy it more than I did the first time. I kinda did. And
Question mark?
here's the thing. This is the equivalent, for you wrestling fans out there, this is the equivalent of a WWE Monday Night Raw in Star Wars movie form. It was some good stuff in lots of places, but there was so much long meandering and filler and stuff that wasn't necessary. This movie was way too long. It took forever for them to finally get to the point half of the time. And I remember sitting in the theater going, man, we're spending a lot of time talking about Luke being bitchy. And God, we're spending a long time snapping our fingers in the thing that they did in Empire Strikes Back, but with mirrors. And it just took forever. Even the dialogue with Snoke in their little chamber pot there, where
In the throne room.
yeah, and they're talking about that, and then like, listen, the whole thing with the connection of like, oh, hey, you're shirtless and I can see you. Hey, I am shirtless and I can see you. And again,
Ben Swallow
they just
is hot.
did that far too many times. And like their whole justification for it was Snoke doing that to them. And then this is part of the reason why I didn't like The Rise of Skywalker. It never happened again after this
Actually,
movie.
It happened. It did happen in Rise of Skywalker.
Once. And that was it.
Once or twice.
And but they barely mentioned, it was not nearly as big of a thing then in Rise of Skywalker as it was here, but that was like the core of the movie. And the thing is like there were certain little details that if you noticed it was fine. Like I personally thought, I was talking about with Last Jedi before with Rise of Skywalker, I personally thought that after Snow, and by the way, I don't think I have to say spoilers here, but spoilers. I mean, this whole podcast is a spoiler.
Yeah.
When Snoke dies, and then they finish this out, and they all get moody and whatnot, because he's gonna go still be evil, and she saved everybody, and they have that connection again. When they said that Snoke was the one that caused it. Where I thought they were going with that was that Snoke himself was somebody else and wasn't dead. I thought that the fact that Snoke was a cop-out was one of the lamest pieces of garbage that Disney just tried to backtrack from. Snoke was interesting as a heel. And he could have been more interesting if he had not actually died, and then we could have gotten more of an explanation instead of bringing Palpatine back. And then if you wanted to go through the Palpatine stuff, you could. But I didn't feel like killing Snoke and then not having Snoke be anything having to do with the third movie kind of took the edge off of the whole point. Like, why are you killing your main villain that quick?
But Snoke was in for like 10 seconds in a vat with a bunch of other Snoke clones.
Yeah, not enough. And I thought it was just dumb. It was like, oh, you're a half-mutated Palpatine? Yeah, get the fuck out of here. And it's just like, I feel like that wasn't necessary for what they were doing. I also thought that the cinematography was kind of cheesy after the betrayal of Snoke by Ben, and then they're back to back and they do the panoramic shot, and it looked too clean. It just, and but here's the redeeming things about The Last Jedi. I think there's a lot of good pieces of dialogue in this. Everybody hated what they did to Luke Skywalker. I liked it.
I didn't.
I liked it. I thought that I'm not saying that it was perfect, him going, well, you might be a threat, I could sense you're a threat, so let me be a threat to you so that you're not a threat, was stupid. That whole justification of I was weak once and tried to kill Ben Solo because I was upset, and then I turned away from the Force because I was stupid and Ben raised the whole place. But the whole idea that Luke would be dejected from the whole thing and just want to distance himself, even though I didn't think the milking of the whatever it was necessary. You know,
the alien with its titties.
Yeah, alien titties were not necessary, Rian Johnson. I didn't understand it. But that's kind of my point. They spent a lot of time doing that useless, middling, meandering stuff, repeating the same points they made 5 minutes earlier, 15 minutes earlier. There's a good 45 minutes of that movie you could just cut and you would not miss it. And I think that's my biggest problem with The Last Jedi. But I liked what they did with Luke. I think him meditating and disappearing, again, they really wanted to use that fade button over at Disney. And they were going to make sure they did, but I liked the idea of what they did with him and the blasting and the more and all that jazz. Again, there was stuff that I really liked. I don't really have an opinion one way or another about Leia in The Last Jedi. I really don't think it was that big of a problem. I don't care, realistically. I don't think that was enough to bother me. That's not one of the pieces that bothered me about the movie. I thought
Leia's Superman Force thing through space was weird, but it didn't bother me.
I didn't care. It was the only time they ever used the Force with Leia ever. They established it as canon back in in Empire Strikes Back. They alluded to it, so it's not out of the realm that she would do something like that, although she would have been dead. Let's just be real.
Yeah.
The amount of time that would have taken, she can't just freeze and then be like, all right, I'm going to just float back to my ship. That was kind of silly. That was kind of silly. But at the end of the day, that plays in very little to where I rank this. I think that this is better than... This was the best of the sequels, in my opinion. It just was fucking long. I wish they had trimmed this down. You trim this into a 2-hour movie, I don't think it gets the flack that it does when it gets released. That's my opinion on that.
Well, Josh, again, I'll let you go next.
I personally, I love this movie. My one thing, the Canto Bight subplot is such a waste of time. It's such a waste of Finn. It's a waste of everyone's time. And if you just sped that up or cut that in half or just have Finn do something meaningful to the plot, then it would immediately boost the movie a lot. But no, it is what it is. And the only part of the movie that I kind of hate is the Canto Bight stuff because it's just boring and meandering. And by the time they get to the point, which is them trying to figure out how to get rid of their hyperspace tracking thing or whatever, it turns out they don't even need to do it because Holdo does the hyperspace through the ship, so that whole entire subplot was meaningless. So, just kind of stupid.
That also doesn't make any sense because that would have destroyed both ships. But let's not get into that detail.
That part actually didn't bother me because I thought it was cool. But, and you've actually seen, in the Clone Wars show, there's a part where Anakin Skywalker drives a ship into someone else's ship, but he hits him in the middle, and it takes a second for the ship to explode. If you clip the wing going that fast, I don't think it would make all of it explode all at once. But, I really like this movie. A lot of things that they do, I love bitter, angry Luke Skywalker who failed once, and it basically ruined... Because from my perspective, he is the one, although he had help, who took down the Empire. It was him who led to the redemption of his father and the defeat of Darth Sidious, for the time being anyway, wink, wink, hint, hint, nudge, nudge. And then one split-second mistake that he made ruined everything that he built, and the First Order rose as a terrorist organization. So the idea that in one split second he ruined everything that it took him forever to build up, I love that. I don't have a problem at all with him going into that tent, reading Ben's mind and freaking out for a split second, and then realizing, oh crap, I done. I love that. Although I don't think they could have they should have made him just depressed and down and a little less cranky.
Yeah, because it got kind of cartoony at points.
Him throwing the lightsaber behind him, I felt was a bit much. I would have just had him mournfully and sadly hand Rey back the lightsaber and say, I'm not who you think I am. Not just him throwing it behind him and angrily stomping away. Well, I would have made him less angry.
Well, allow me to try and defend the parts of the movie that I'm willing to admit I liked.
Okay.
I liked that characterization, actually, because it wasn't just that Luke was just, torn and depressed. Because I'm watching the Obi-Wan Kenobi series. And in the beginning of that series, spoiler alert, Obi-Wan Kenobi is torn and depressed about his way with the Force. Mm-hmm. Luke actively blames himself for the destruction of what was supposed to be the Jedi Order that he was creating. He is raising these kids to be the future of the Jedi, and he feels in his own mind that because of what happened in that tent that night, he is responsible. So when he thinks about Jedi and he thinks about the Force, he's bitter and angry about it because he realized that this was the last chance to bring the Jedi back to the universe, and he is the one that's bearing all that weight and responsibility on his shoulders, and he's angry about it. And him coming to terms with it when he's talking to Kylo Ren at the end when he disappears into the Force and becomes one with the Force is really cool and really solves his character arc.
Mm-hmm. I agree 100%.
Yeah.
Now are you ready for me to shit on the movie?
In just a second. I think the cinematography and the CGI is absolutely marvelous, especially when they're on Planet Crate. I love the action in this movie. I love everything that they do with Rey and Ben, with Kylo Ren. I actually love that at first I was confused as to why they killed Snoke. But then I was like, if Kylo Ren is the big bad in Episode 9, hint, hint, nudge, nudge, wink, wink, that would have been interesting. And in retrospect, and in the Duel of the Fates script, apparently Kylo Ren was the big bad in Episode 9, which he should have been.
Yeah.
But no, we have to make him likable.
No, it was...
You could have had him be the big bad and then become likable at the end of Episode 9.
And you know what's the messed up part about that? Is you think about the ending of The Last Jedi, and you think about, the very last scene where that kid's just walking and he uses the Force to grab the broom and he looks up at the stars, where I thought they were going with that, where if Kylo Ren's going to be big evil, and then all of a bunch of these little kids come together to get revenge on Anakin so that Disney can do their whole, everyone's a Jedi, come buy our amusement park tickets. And that's where I thought they were headed with that. But then we never saw the kid again, and that never got any payoff whatsoever in Rise of Skywalker. But then maybe the children could have changed Kylo's heart and made it 3 times its size.
Either that, or he could have murdered them like Anakin did with the temple.
You had options
Kylo
there.
Ren is the Grinch who stole the Force.
Yeah, but instead...
imagine if the kid is looking at the sky, and right as he's looking at the sky, a red lightsaber ignites.
Yeah.
Cut to black.
See?
Cut the black.
You have options like that. That's why I didn't hate Last Jedi.
Out of nowhere, a lightsaber appears out of nowhere, cut to black, lightsaber slash, Wilhelm scream.
Yeah. So that's okay. Now you can tear this apart. I just thought I'd mention the ending real quick. Go ahead, Sky.
Luke Skywalker is the only person that gets any sort of real meaningful character development in this movie. Every other character is wasted and used for nothing to shame. Poe is just there to be there and sometimes do something cool, but not really. Finn is completely ruined. He's a coward and he's a baby. And then one time he finally gets the courage and he almost dies because of it. In a meaningless scene that doesn't really matter anything and has a useless subplot involving the casino world and finding the hacker. And don't even get me started on the romantic interest he has, which is not interesting whatsoever.
Rose?
Is such a waste of time.
As much as I love Kelly Marie as Rose, that subplot of Finn having a side piece was useless.
Well...
It should have been Rey and Finn.
That's what they teased. That was part of the problem, I think, too, with this. Is every movie they subsequently decided we're not going to pay off things we set up.
Yep, and this is the movie that started it specifically. Rey gets almost no character development. Like, Rey is super, super powerful in the Force, and it's never explained why she's super, super powerful. Like, this is supposed to be the movie that, like, Luke trains her, and he barely trains her at all in anything. And Kylo Ren, Adam Driver, I love him, but it's just like, he's angry, angsty, emo Sith Lord. Jesus, God, something.
Yeah. Accurate.
I'm angry at my parents. I hate my mom. I hate my dad. Fuck you. Fuck you. I'm going to be in the Sith. Cry me a fucking river.
I love Kylo Ren, so...
Because you are basically Kylo Ren if you think about it.
Yes. Minus the hair. I got a haircut, so...
If you were able to grow your hair out like Adam Driver, you could have been Kylo Ren.
Yes, absolutely.
That means you wouldn't murder babies in the Jedi Temple. God.
Yeah.
But the biggest problem with this movie is the meandering, the plot holes, the bullshit. Leia never knows how to use the Force. And suddenly, when she is in the vacuum of space, she uses the Force to save herself in a completely arbitrary and bullshit way when her character could have been written off to give Kylo Ren more development. But no, we're going to have Leia use the Force and pay off something that was brought up in the original movies that was never actually used.
True.
Admiral Akbar died in that scene, but Leia gets to live because she has the Force.
Correct.
It was a trap.
Again, I'm going to say the famous words of Han Solo. That's not how the Force works. It's not how it works at all.
But Disney.
But Disney makes a lot of money despite themselves. This is basically the Saudi Arabian WWE show of fucking Star Wars movies.
Yeah, it just took too long. It was just too long of a movie.
If they cut out the Canto Bite stuff and made Luke a little bit less angry and gave Finn something meaningful to do, I still love this movie as it is, but I would like it more.
Right. Again, the action was cool, the cinematography was cool, the CGI was always cool. I actually really loved that scene with the ship going into hyperspace and destroying the other ship. Like,
Yeah.
That was a scene that we'd never seen before, and, like, it explains now why they try to do holomaps and why in The New Hope, when Luke was like, just go into hyperspace, and Han's like, no, I can't go into hyperspace. If I go into hyperspace and I don't plan the coordinates right, I could run into another ship or a star or a planet. You want to die? I don't want to die.
That'd end your trip real quick, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Exactly. Anyways, now we got past episode 8. We're going to move on to the next movie, Solo. Speaking of Han.
That's right.
Ranked number 9. Now, Joshua, you had it ranked 9th. I had it ranked 9th. And Sean had it ranked 6th.
Why are you guys hating on this movie?
Okay, I don't hate any of the Star Wars movie. I just,
This movie felt like it explained a lot of things about Han Solo that were mysteries that honestly made him less interesting.
I felt like it answered questions that no one asked or cared to ask.
Yeah. Like, the difference between this one and Rogue One is that Rogue One significantly answered a major question that we always asked. Solo,
It felt like a cash grab.
It does.
Well, it was a cash grab. That's exactly what it was.
It was. Yeah.
It was using the Han Solo name to get a cash grab and get some money. I mean, does Disney need more money, honestly?
No,
Yeah.
but I mean, maybe that's part of why people didn't like it on the off, because it definitely had the feeling therein of this is a Disney cash grab. You know,
It's a perfectly fine, acceptable, fun movie. It's just my favorite part of the movie is when Darth Maul was there.
which was the end.
Yes. For 10
The
seconds.
literal end.
I can understand that. I personally, the reason why this is higher up than a lot of the other ones is I thought that there was. Disney recently said that they didn't. They they made a mistake when they recast Solo, and I don't think that's necessarily true. I think that he did a admirable enough a job as did Danny Glover. I loved him as Lando.
Yeah,
I
me
mean,
too.
I loved the whole concept of let's talk about how he got the Falcon and let's, how do you describe what the Kessel Run is, seeing how Kessel is a unit of distance and not time, or parsec, rather. But
Parsec.
they did the same, but still.
How he met
Right.
Chewie.
How did Han Solo meet Chewie?
Yeah, I mean, I liked all of that. I think that they added, again, with the knowledge that this is a Disney cash grab, I feel like they did answer questions that maybe no one was asking for, but it was a welcome addition to just adding depth to a character that we wouldn't ever see again actually be played. So, so that's maybe the only reason why it doesn't hold up as well, with the exception of Dead Han Solo in Rise of Skywalker. But to me, of all of the Star Wars biopics, or biopics, if for those of you who like that kind of flavor of that word, I don't think this was the first one they did of all of these biopics, and I don't think they did a bad job with it. I think they did fine. I thought the action was good. The dialogue was not necessarily the greatest. I don't know if I love his girlfriend just like betraying him and joining this dark group of shenanigans. Was this the one where
Crimson Dawn.
is this the one where the Knights of Ren were there?
No, that was the sequel trilogy. No, that was Rise of Skywalker.
Oh,
That's another thing about Rise of Skywalker. In episode 7 and episode 8, the Knights of Ren are scary. In episode 9, they do nothing but die.
they're a bunch of losers. No,
they
but
look cool and die.
But they had
I
those
think
junk people that looked kind of like the Knights of Ren, but with a lot less budget, and
Yeah.
that was a part of the movie that happened. It wasn't necessarily the tug on your heartstrings type of movie, as much as it was, let's just take a look into this character and see what we can get out of him that maybe you wanted to add to before. But Sky, to your point, that might have made him less interesting as a character going forward.
I mean, again, the movie's not awful, and I would go as far as to say it's a good movie. It's decent. It's just, the biggest thing going against it is I don't really see a reason for it other than money.
Right. What?
Well, the other thing too that was going against it was that Rogue One came out in 2016, and Solo came out 2 years later. And Rogue One, well, we'll talk about it in a bit, but Rogue One was a little bit of a success story.
Yeah, Rogue One was much better. I'm not saying that it wasn't.
But
Plus,
that's the thing, is that Rogue One. Hold on, let me continue.
Sorry.
Continue.
But again, Rogue One was such a great movie, and it was a success story, and it made a lot of money for Disney, and they wanted to do more of these standalone movies. And when Solo came out, it couldn't meet Rogue One's expectations, and it wasn't a box office success because the budget for the movie was $300 million, and they barely covered it with a box office of $400 million.
Yeah.
Plus,
Versus-
this was year 4 of every year now a Star Wars movie, and everyone knew that the next year would be Episode 9. And honestly, I think people were starting to get a little tired of it. People were talking about Star Wars fatigue, and honestly, I personally didn't feel it with any of the other movies except this one.
But you knew it was going to happen.
Yeah.
I think everyone, once Disney bought Star Wars, knew that was going to happen. Because they wouldn't be able to help themselves. And I think that's why this was unanimously, well, not unanimously, but why this was panned, was that this was the first movie that felt like Disney was just milking it.
Mm-hmm. Like Luke was milking that titty in Episode 8.
Exactly. Only less gross. Or more gross, depending on how you feel about it.
I was about to say.
Well, and speaking of less gross or more gross, depending on how you take it, Phantom Menace, the first of the prequels. Now, let's see here. Who had who ranked where? Joshua, you had the Phantom Menace ranked 10th. I had the Phantom Menace ranked 6th. I actually had it pretty high. Sean had the Phantom Menace ranked 7th.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
So, Joshua, tell us why you hate Jar Jar Binks.
Okay. One thing to explain on my Star Wars list, from movie 1 to movie 7, I love all of those movies. Movies 8 and 9, I think they're good. I like them. I'm okay with them. Then the next 2 are like, take it or leave it, kind of like a C. I give it a grade. If I were to letter grade it, I'd give it a C. And I would give Episode 2, Attack of the Clones, a D. Half of me likes The Phantom Menace, half of me hates it. It's very hit and miss. There are things in the Phantom Menace that are absolutely amazing. And there are things in the Phantom Menace that suck fucking balls. I'll go over the stuff I don't like in the Phantom Menace. Three main things. Number one, the thing I hate more than anything in the Phantom Menace, when they get to Coruscant, they do what Sean accused The Last Jedi of doing. They pump the brakes so fast that your face goes through the windshield. The momentum of the movie just halts. And nothing happens except talking. And Chancellor Valorum, no power, no confidence, was put in Palpatine instead.
What's that got to do with anything?
Cold. Interesting things are happening in the most boring way possible.
Yeah.
Like, just imagine how awesome would it have been if during the thing when he says, I call for a vote of no confidence in Chancellor Valorum's leadership, what if all of a sudden the ceiling exploded, Darth Maul drops from the rafters and decapitates Valorum with his lightsaber?
Well, actually, Josh, again, if you read, Wikipedia,
Paragraph 43
Chancellor
of the
Valorum...
Darth Maul archives, archive a...
Chancellor Valorum got that, like, vote of no confidence, and then he tried to, like, run again when Palpatine was like, ooh, I'm not evil, but I'm close, and he didn't win.
But, like, if Darth Maul would have dropped from the ceiling while they're arguing and just killed Valorum, that would have been awesome. And then he just was like, now I'm gone. Because that would have guaranteed that they would have needed to replace Valorum, because even with the vote of no confidence, that doesn't automatically mean, or at least it shouldn't mean, oh, we're automatically going to get a new chancellor, because it would have had to been something they discuss. You should have sown the distrust in the people and then take out the leader, or maybe that would, I don't know.
Did you not hear the Senate? They said, vote now, vote now, vote
I know,
now.
But something would have happened.
There were ETs in the Senate.
Yeah.
No, that's a fact. They put ET in the Senate.
That is true. ET is canon.
That's right.
Number two, the poop and fart jokes.
Constant.
Yeah. I don't need Jar Jar stepping in poop. I don't need that weird...
It wasn't poop, it was icky poo.
I don't need that thing farting in Jar Jar Binks' face. Just...
How woo.
No. How woo. Excuse me! Anyway. I don't hate Jar Jar Binks, by the way. Jar Jar Binks also is unironically my mom's favorite character, and Episode 1 is my mom's favorite Star Wars movie.
Your mom is stupid.
Wow.
Damn.
You're not wrong, but...
Damn.
Whoa. You should be defending your mom, man.
Her favorite movie's The Phantom Menace. What can I say?
Your mom is so stupid, I rang the doorbell and she answered the microwave. Keep going before this turns into an entire show of Yo Mama jokes.
Yeah.
Was this 2006?
No, just 5 years earlier.
But another thing I hated about this movie, you didn't have to make Anakin force Jesus. I didn't need Anakin Skywalker being born because of Force Immaculate Conception.
You referring to the prophecy that says I'm Samuel L. Jackson. Motherfucker.
But, like, everything else in the movie's great. Those three things in the movie, in my opinion, suck. Liam Neeson is fantastic. Qui-Gon Jinn is the best Jedi. The action is great. The pod race, although, if you watch the pod race, every single shot in the movie is a camera pan from left to right, and you will never be able to unsee that ever again.
Correct.
It gets redundant after a while.
It's kind of nauseating.
It's still a fun thing to watch, but after a while, that same camera pan gets nauseating. And Sebulba is a great heel. I love Sebulba. Him just walking past Anakin's ship, damaging it, going like, whoops. I love that. I love that guy. And of course, the fight between Darth Maul, Obi-Wan, and Qui-Gon is just magnificent. The whole third act is great. It's a mixed bag.
It is a mixed bag, which is why it's dead middle of my list.
Yeah.
It's Phantom Menace for me. I had to admit that some of it is nostalgia driven because it was the first Star Wars I saw in theaters.
Mm-hmm.
So that does mean something to me. However, I think that where the movie starts to get a little boring is actually during some of the scenes with Qui-Gon and Anakin on Tatooine. I think
I'm gonna be the first one to see them all.
It spends too long kind of just being stranded and conversation. I mean, some of it's necessary, but it does just like every time that the action gets fast, they slow it down too quick. You know, they do the great thing with the Trade Federation ship and the destroyers and all that jazz and the short negotiations, and then they end up having to go to Tatooine, and then let's just sit here for a long while.
Oh, a good like visual representation of what you just described, the stopping and starting. They use force speed one time in this movie. They become Force Sonic the Hedgehog at the beginning of the movie and never use it again.
Yep.
They're slow the rest of the movie. Especially when Obi-Wan is far away from the action and he has to catch up to Darth Maul and Qui-Gon.
Yeah, you'd think that would be the time, right?
You have force speed.
You can argue because he's a Padawan at the time that he's not as experienced and not quite as good as it.
But he did it earlier in the movie.
I don't know.
Just don't have them use force speed. Just have them run away normally while deflecting shots.
Obi-Wan's turning Sith. Qui-Gon had to die.
Ha!
That's just the way it is.
And that's the last Jedi.
Yeah. No, but honestly, the movie was fine. I mean, the lightsaber fight at the end is super fun. I even like the whole stuff with whole Keira Knightley and Natalie Portman. Like, I didn't realize how similar they actually could be in that respect. It was kind of nice to see Keira Knightley in the Star Wars universe.
Yeah, I agree.
One went on to continue making Star Wars movies. The other one went to pirates.
Yeah. And
Star Wars in the ocean.
No, it's okay, Skylar. We all heard about that.
Which
puns.
is a whole other
I've got
episode we may ever talk about.
That's right. So
Pirates of the Caribbean at World's End is the best Pirates of the Caribbean movie. Continue.
That's a lie.
Agreed.
Wow.
That's a lie.
Me and Tyler agreed on something.
And I liked this movie. I think that it fell victim to, I think, overindulged expectations. Because think about it. This is kind of the same thing that happened with Force Awakens, which we'll talk about. This movie was this was episode 1. This is like, oh, they're finally going back to it. And this drew buckets of money. But when they saw it, people didn't like it. Because Jar Jar's kind of prejudice. If you look at it. I'm just saying. But again, visually, there was some good stuff in this movie. I think that they had not perfected the CGI puppet blend for Yoda.
Oh my god, the puppet of Yoda is the most hideous thing.
Yeah.
In the re-release where they put in the digital Yoda from episodes 2 and 3 looks so much better.
Yeah, but the first time, not good.
Bar.
Again, they were working with limitations that they had at the time, so I don't blame them.
Any Samuel L. Jackson is good Samuel L. Jackson, so that's always a highlight.
Even though he was only there to talk.
Doesn't matter. It set up him being badass in the next 2 movies. So, I don't have a major issue with any of this. It's just that it had times where I think it fell flat, and it was fine for what it was, but it wasn't what the people wanted, so people started shitting on it, and then people started to go into it expecting it to be bad or trying to find things wrong with it.
Yeah.
I mean, Phantom Menace is a perfectly acceptable middle-of-the-road movie, which is basically what it was in our rankings, because we said, it's not bad, it's not terrible, although there are things that are problems, but there are issues there that, had they tweaked them, would have made this movie higher. Again, I completely agree with you, Sean. When they get to Tatooine, except for the pod race scene, all the stuff with Qui-Gon and Anakin, especially midichlorians, like...
Midichlorians do not bother me.
it's not necessarily the fact that it's that they set up midichlorians and then never used it for the other two movies.
They brought it up once in episode 3.
Yeah, they brought it up one time, but they set something up that they spent a little bit of time with that they could have done something else that just
Yeah, it slowed way down. This was a very stop and start movie.
You guys said it was when they got to Tatooine. I actually like the Tatooine stuff, except for the poo-poo and fart jokes.
But again, that's another
real
problem. Again,
hammering down on the break is when they get to Coruscant. That's when I'm like, oh my god, this is the cure for insomnia.
But again, you're also right, Joshua. That whole scene of we're going to do the Senate stuff and the political stuff. If you are not a fan of political stuff, that scene is a grinder.
Oh god! Imagine being 9 and watching that.
Like, it would have been better if they were. It would have been better. Again,
so,
it would have been better.
I don't want to hear nothing about it.
But again, you're right. It would have been better if they would have broken up the tension by having Darth Maul come in, kill Chancellor Valorum, and then the Senate declare that.
Should have been named Chancellor Valium.
Valium.
That was putting me to the street, boy.
Like when she says vote of no confidence, have a lot of people in there just disagree and say, no, we like Valorum. Like, because he's already won over Padme. He's already won over Queen Amidala. Then have Darth Maul drop in and decapitate Valorum. And like, oh my god! Something must happen.
Right, but again, the biggest problem with the movie, again, is Jar Jar being basically there for pooping and farting jokes, and basically being the comedy relief for a movie that didn't really need comedy relief.
You know who else was in the Senate besides E.T.? Angelo Dawkins and Montez Ford, because there's a lot of shitty and poopy in this movie.
Yeah, but again, this movie set up a lot of cool things. I hate to say it about the prequels because the Star Wars prequels, all the lightsaber duels sucked in that one. This is the first one where they go high speed, high action. Darth Maul's double saber is awesome.
Oh my
it's
god!
It's the coolest weapon.
No one who watches that movie for the first time can watch that without their jaw hitting the floor.
Yeah.
Right, and watching him fight two Jedi in a very different way because of the way that
amazing.
Yep. Again, it just speaks badass. Darth Maul. The only sad part is that he doesn't really talk in that movie, and thankfully in Clone Wars we get more of that. But the point being is that there was good stuff in it. John Williams again is the greatest of music. Like, this was the first movie besides the original trilogy where the music really picked up. Like that music that they play when they're
Duel of Fates is the greatest OST for a song in theater ever written.
And they only used it 3 times.
To Battle of the Heroes. I'm partial to Battle of the Heroes, but yes, Duel of the
Fates. It's a pick your own. Like, both of them are really good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But Duel of Fates is one of the best songs that they ever made. Again, it's a middle of the road Star Wars movie, but it's not anything against it. It's just it could have been better, but what they had was still pretty good.
Indeed.
Mm-hmm. Now let's move on to the next movie, Force Awakens. Now let's go ahead and get to our rankings. Joshua had Force Awakens as his second movie.
Yep.
I had it as the 8th movie. Sean had Force Awakens as the 11th movie in his ranking. So we got high, medium, and low.
Yeah.
May I go first since I'm the middle of the road?
Yeah,
Sorry, that was really funny. For Josh again and I at the same time. He's like, yeah. And I'm like, yeah.
That's our opinion of this movie.
Yeah. It just made me laugh. Continue, Sky.
I can feel the 1,000-yard stare off of that. Yeah.
Here's the thing: is that Revenge of the Sith came out in 2005, and Force Awakens came out in 2015. So 10 years later, we get this movie. We had the Clone Wars animated stuff and the TV show in between, but this was the first movie that was made under Disney's banner. And the whole thing is that we were all excited for Force Awakens to come out, and Force Awakens is a good movie. There's good stuff in it. It's just the hardest part for me when it comes to Force Awakens is that basically it takes the plot for A New Hope and basically replace the Death Star plans with where is Luke Skywalker's coordinates, and it's the same movie.
That it?
I kind of agree, kind of disagree. There are definitely similarities, but
Yeah.
the bigger picture of Episode 4 and the bigger picture of Episode 7 are different, and that's what stands out to me, and that's why I can look past the similarities, although there are a lot.
Similarities are whole hog ripoffs.
But the whole reason why they did that is because this was right before The Force Awakens came out, was the most anti-prequel the Star Wars community has ever been. Because it was bad. And as someone who, when I was younger, by the time, I've always liked the prequels, especially what we'll get to later. When this movie came out, I felt like I was the only prequel fan. That's how bad it was. And when this movie came out, the people made this movie were like, okay, everyone loves the originals, everyone hates the prequels. Let's try not to associate anything at all with the prequels as best we can. And let's remind them, hey, this is Star Wars. It's okay now. George Lucas isn't in charge anymore. It's going to be okay. That's basically what this movie was.
Anything else?
I love this movie. But I'm not going to lie. A lot of that has to do with just how amazing the theater experience was.
Sure.
Because, again, this was the first time I saw a Star Wars movie in theaters. And I'll never forget, the movie's about to start. And, like, it has the long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. Everyone gets really quiet. And a dude towards the front says, I'm so excited. And then me at the opposite end of the theater, I'm like, me too, bro. And then someone in the middle of the theater is like, we all are. Da, da, da. And everyone laughed.
That's funny.
It was great.
I remember just for Force Awakens, when that happened, when I went into the theater for that, I remember everyone around me crying. Like cheering, but crying. Just like complete teared up. To the point, like, you kind of got overwhelmed with emotion seeing it return to the theater, because I've experienced a very similar thing, but I'm wiping tears away from my eyes. I'm looking behind me, everyone's wiping tears, nobody has tissues, they're all just blowing snot rockets onto the rug. That's yes.
Again, this movie is amazing setup. They could have done better with the succeeding movies, the following movies, which does kind of affect The Force Awakens because, again, it is a trilogy. But as far as setup, because this is a setup movie, I think it's phenomenal. If only they would have paid things off in a way that made sense. But, like, the cinematography, the shots, the compositing, the action sequences, the cosmetics, in my opinion, are just phenomenal. Like, my favorite of all of the movies thus far, including Revenge of the Sith. And this was, for a time, my number one favorite Star Wars movie, but I decided to go back on a little bit because the one that is my favorite, which we'll get to, whenever I think of Star Wars, I'll just go ahead and say it. Revenge of the Sith is my favorite Star Wars movie. And whenever I think of Star Wars, I immediately think of Revenge of the Sith, not The Force Awakens. So I'm just like, I'm not going to stop kidding myself. I like Revenge of the Sith more, but it's only by like a tiny bit. I love Kylo Ren. He's one of my favorite characters in all of Star Wars.
Because you identify so much with him, troubled emo goth youth.
Absolutely. And I do not deny it. I wear it as a badge of honor. I love
if you dubbed over like some of Kylo Ren's scenes with Marilyn Manson music,
it would be like, imagine playing the fight song with him just beating the shit out of that wall.
Fight! I'm not afraid to give a world that doesn't give a shit. Anyways, Sean.
That was a beautiful rendition of the song.
Okay.
Now go ahead and shit all over it.
And now Sean's going to shit all over it.
Here's my problem. Han Solo and Chewie are fine. Finn is fine. Rey is fine. Kylo Ren is fine. This movie goes so far beyond being a ripoff of A New Hope. It's basically a shot-for-shot remake. to the point where I was in the movie theater and I kept watching him like, I remember that shot from A New Hope. And then, oh, I remember that shot from A New Hope. And I remember that shot from A New Hope. And I remember that shot from A New Hope. And this is A New Hope. And then everyone's like so happy and cheering, and I'm sitting there going, okay, so this is what Disney's going to do. Which is what I suspected it was going to do, which was, let's do as little original as possible while making it pass off like it's a brand new movie to get a jillion people to buy more tickets to watch the movie. This was the true indicator of what they planned to do with Star Wars. It was lazy. It was boring because it was not original. I'd seen the movie and a better version of that movie in A New Hope. The characters were fine. Didn't have a problem with it. Didn't have a problem with Ben killing his dad. Fine. I liked the fact that they tried to do some stuff and set some things up. But I was so put off by the unoriginality that's why Last Jedi I didn't hate, because Last Jedi at the very least was trying new shit. And this to me just was lame. It just was boring, and it was a sellout movie. It was just doing everything that A New Hope did, but not knowing the context of why it worked then, so it just looked like you're repeating moves. It's the Dolph Ziggler of the Star Wars movies.
Oh, wow. Wow.
So you're calling New Hope Shawn Michaels?
I would say that's a better comparison, although not nearly as whiny. Well, Luke's kind of whiny in the first movie, you know?
Yeah. Luke is a sexy boy.
You know, you might not be wrong there, Sky. You might not be wrong. But the point stands.
I'm just a sexy boy. Sexy boy.
Yeah.
I'm not your boy toy. Boy toy.
So,
anyways.
My toy's my lightsaber.
That's... Does it have
Get out of here, you ignorant slut.
Do your balls stick out the side like the lightsaber does? Because that sounds like it would hurt.
Yeah.
Anyway.
It's like the Kylo Ren lightsaber, except my little 2 mini blades are just my balls.
Yeah, pain. Anyway.
Yeah.
So.
They glow red.
Yeah. They glow Kylo red. And.
Oh, God. But I agree with you, Sean. That's the thing that took me back. Like, as much as I was enjoying the new characters, the freshness of everything that was going on, the new CG, every other scene or piece of line dialogue was from A New Hope. To the point when Finn and Rey meet Han Solo and Chewbacca, and Han Solo starts referencing all the things that happened in A New Hope, you could have watched A New Hope in the time that he was looking at them.
It didn't do it for me. It just didn't do it for me. And it was the movie that I wanted to believe in the most. And it ended up being the one that I enjoyed the least because it was the least original of the three. At least to the Rise of Skywalker's credit, they tried to be original. Even though they brought back Palpatine and they did the end of it. You know what? That's why Last Jedi was the best. At least they tried different stuff.
Right, because what happened was that A Force Awakens basically was A New Hope. And there are parts of Empire Strikes Back that exist in Last Jedi. That's why when Rise of Skywalker happened, and it wasn't Return of the Jedi, basically.
It was Return of the Palpatine.
It just, yeah. So that's my opinion on it. Was it a poorly made movie? No, it was just an already made movie.
Yeah. So anyways, now we're going to go to the next movie, Rogue One. I think universally all of us liked Rogue One. Like Joshua, you had it 6th. I had Rogue One 5th. Sean had Rogue One 6th. So it's in the middle, but Rogue One is a very good movie.
It's very, very good.
Agreed.
Sean?
It answers the question we've always had. Why does the Death Star even have a thermal port that when you shoot something into it, it explodes? Now we know that the engineer who made it, his family got killed and he held a grudge. And maybe you shouldn't have the guy who makes your thing, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Make
you
it
know.
go boom. Make big ball go boom.
It's just, I like this movie. I thought that this movie was really, I think it captured a lot of the spirit of Star Wars while adding certain things. Felicity
Jones.
Yeah, she wasn't that great of an actress.
Felicity Jones.
I didn't really care
The girl
for her.
that was in Austin Powers.
I've never seen Austin Powers.
Yeah, she wasn't. Well, that's we're gonna talk later about that. But that's But I didn't really care for her in the movie. I didn't think she herself was that good. But everybody around her was great. I thought that the ad of the droid, what was his name, K2.
K2SO.
Yeah, I loved K2. I loved that, and like the whole story behind him, and like that heroic death that he had. And then the blind guy who had like, he wasn't necessarily force sensitive, but he still was a little force sensitive. You know, was
anyway.
Yeah, he was. I loved him. I loved the character depth that he had. The talk about the crystals, like, and how the lightsabers are made. I really liked all of that. And then the finish.
Oh, God.
Of just Darth Vader coming in and laying the smackdown on everybody. That's the kind of Darth Vader you wanted.
The biggest, dumbest grin on my face when that was happening. That was orgasmic.
Yeah. It was great. It was honestly, it was fun. It definitely didn't feel like the cash grab because it answered some questions that we had, but it also was a solitary story in and of itself.
Yeah.
It tied in the original 3 movies with the prequels and telling a story like this is what happens, and basically this movie takes place 5 minutes before A New Hope starts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because Princess Leia gets the Death Star plans, gets her ship in the original A New Hope movie, and that's where the scene happens.
Yeah, and and it was and if you're not going to have John Williams do the score, Michael Giacchino is a terrific replacement. Because he's terrific.
Absolutely.
He actually did the music for Lost, which I think is one of the best TV soundtracks ever.
Directed by J.J. Abrams, the director of Force Awakens and The Rise of Skywalker. Continue.
Okay, we're moving on because I'm not talking about J.J. Abrams anymore. Anyways,
Life is
we're going to move on because, again, there's not much to say about... As we get higher up, there's not much to say other than this is great or this is wonderful.
Yeah, it's true.
Agreed.
Next movie is actually another tie and more controversy. Empire Strikes Back and A New Hope tied for 3rd.
So, here's the thing. Everyone says that Empire Strikes Back is the superior movie. I think they did a terrific job building upon what A New Hope established. And they added a lot of good new characters, and it definitely made sense. You know, everything they did made sense and where it was going, and the dialogue was terrific. And there's so many good quotable pieces in Empire Strikes Back, and you're left wondering, you know, what's going to happen in the 3rd movie, which is great. But I think A New Hope is a better all-around movie.
Agreed.
It's just...
Yeah.
My thing, I love Empire Strikes Back. It is an awesome movie. What turns me off is the collective Star Wars hive mind. We all unanimously agree at this round table that this is the best Star Wars movie.
Agreed.
The way everyone treats this movie is so annoying.
Yeah.
If this is your favorite Star Wars movie, that's fine. But everyone hive mind agreeing on it like it's the word of law is just annoying.
Stupid.
Yes.
Like, it's one of those things where at some point it's just like, would you rather have filet mignon, lobster tail, or sea bass? I'm like, I don't really care. It's just what I feel like.
Surf and turf. Give me both.
For not having filet mignon.
Yeah.
And it's the Spider-Man 2 of the Star Wars movies. Everyone hive mind agrees. Spider-Man 2 is the best Spider-Man movie. The bowing up and down. Yeah.
I mean it is, but continue.
I don't agree.
But there are issues. Even with these movies, there are issues and things that happen. Part of it, again, was that Lucas was still he was kind of writing the movies as he was going. So there's a little bit that, like the whole thing about, you know, Luke's father being a traitor and then, you know, actually being a Sith Lord, but he was a Jedi first. That was established in New Hope and then becomes Empire Strikes Back and revealed in Return of the Jedi. It's just...
My favorite plot line in Star Wars is incest.
Yeah, that was something that was written on the fly, which
Yep.
didn't
Sweet home. What planet were they
Endor.
on?
Sweet Home Alabama.
Sweet home Endor, Bama,
Sweet home Tatooine.
where the Ewoks come and go.
Yeah, like those little things kind of take Empire Strikes Back a little bit badly, like the incense thing. The fact that Boba Fett does nothing.
I do not understand the hype around Boba Fett. Yes, he looks kind of cool, but he does nothing.
Boba Fett followed in the footsteps of his father. Literally.
Looking cool, it does absolutely
I'm
nothing.
badass.
Although,
Put him in the cargo
in
hold.
Boba Fett's
I'm gonna
case-
die to a Jedi. This has been a
In
story.
Boba Fett's case, at least he didn't do anything stupid like hire someone else to send worms. At least he wasn't that stupid.
And he was first.
Yeah.
But yeah, personally, the only reason I put A New Hope above Empire Strikes Back is that if you watch A New Hope start to finish, you didn't need an Empire Strikes Back.
Yeah,
if you
it's-
watch The
A New
Empire
Hope is
Strikes
its
Back,
own
you need to
self-contained
know what
story.
happened in A New Hope in order to appreciate it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I mean, that was the way the movie was intended, right? It's the second of the trilogy. However, there is something to be said about an open and closed movie that can stand on its own alone without that.
The other thing too with Empire Strikes Back, and we may end up putting A New Hope third and Empire Strikes Back fourth, is that the whole middle of Empire Strikes Back, where the Millennium Falcon is in the asteroid, is a little slow.
Yeah.
I don't
Like, I
mind.
know that
The asteroid
I know
isn't
the-
bad, but they do a lot of excess shit at Bespin that isn't necessary.
Yeah. Not to mention the training scene in Dagobah is a training montage, which is a training montage. I mean, it's cool that we get to see Yoda, but
Are you kidding me? I love seeing Yoda ride Luke.
and we're moving on to the next movie before we get more. It reminds me of the Dave Chappelle skit where Darth Vader testifies against the Jedi Council for being perverts.
Yeah, I mean,
Have sex with this woman. I did not.
No. It was the whole thing of they kidnap young children and then molest them.
With their lightsabers.
Exactly. Anyways, Return of the Jedi is ranked number 2. I think we all agree that because this is the ending of the prequels and how awesome it is, it's so much better.
It is my favorite of the original trilogy.
now I ranked A New Hope personally above this movie because I just think A New Hope is just absolutely terrific. Start to finish, establishing who the people are, what their personalities are. It keeps moving. You know, even when it's slow, it picks up shortly thereafter. There's always something engaging to be done at any of these points. The dialogue is the best. Even though the lightsaber battle is very slow, but it's your first introduction to it, so you might as well start off with the basics.
Have you seen that remake where they superimpose Alec Guinness's face, and it actually feels like a prequel lightsaber battle on the Death Star?
Maybe.
SC-38 reimagined.
Maybe.
Well, part of the issue was that they were working with limitations at the time in the 70s,
Yeah.
which was the fact that those sticks that they were using in the placeholders for lightsabers broke very easy.
Yeah, those were actual light tubes.
Yeah, so
Go
that's...
watch SC-38 reimagined. It's a reimagining of that fight scene, and it's phenomenal.
But in any case, you know, it's just that that was my personal thing with A New Hope, because I thought A New Hope it was the first one, it set the tone. If it was its own movie, that would have been it. And it would have been totally fine. It was great, open and shut, but there was so much, you wanted so much more out of it. You wanted more out of it, but what you got, you loved. And the thing with Return of the Jedi, the only reason I put it just one step below this, it answered all the questions we wanted to know, right? It did a great job of paying off all the things that Empire Strikes Back set up. Something that they've never been able to recapture is actually full-blown paying things off, with the exception of our number 1 ranked movie.
Yes.
And this movie was terrific as far as like setting up what Palpatine was. You know, and still the conflict with Luke and like kind of the whole good and bad being a point of view. I thought his dialogue with Obi-Wan that he has right after Yoda dies is so crucial to the entirety of the Star Wars franchise and understanding what you're talking about and kind of what the moral and some of the thinking points that the movie brings up. Like when you leave, you kind of start to think about what they said and kind of how it applies to life in general. And the lightsaber battle was much better in this movie than they were in any of the other previous.
Absolutely.
Because at that point they realized maybe we shouldn't be using stuff that breaks very easy.
Although there's one part where Darth Vader's walking towards Luke, who Luke has the high ground, because Ben taught him well. Where you can see the shadow of the lightsaber on the ground in the final cut of the movie, and I'm just like, okay. But Luke going insane with rage when Vader's like, I'll turn your sister to the dark side. That whole thing, I'm a Jedi like my father before me, throwing the lightsaber to the side. Emperor Palpatine, the first time anyone saw Force lightning, jaw drop. Oh my God, Palpatine is the ultimate evil.
Yeah.
And then Darth Vader's redemption is my favorite scene in all of Star Wars.
Yeah, it's terrific.
Love it.
What a payoff.
Although George Lucas did his damnedest to ruin it, in the special editions of the movie, he adds in Darth Vader going, no, no, no!
I thought you were talking about the part where they replaced the old guy as the Force Ghost and had Hayden Christensen be the Force Ghost.
I hate that too.
Yeah, that's not necessary.
I hate the no so much more. Because you can see Darth Vader changing through the mask just by him standing there and looking back and forth.
Yeah.
You didn't need the no.
Yeah.
It's certainly necessary. But, regardless, Darth Vader dying in Luke's arms is the best scene in all of Star Wars, in my opinion.
Yeah.
It's just so touching.
Get your yub nub ready.
Yes.
The only thing I think that made it so that it goes underneath Revenge of the Sith is the Ewoks.
I like the Ewoks.
But that was also the beginning of George Lucas being, we need to make this more kid-friendly, so let's introduce some cute, furry animals that they horribly botched when they brought Jar Jar Binks and the...
You could get away with it once. You could not get away with it a second time. George Lucas didn't know that and created Gungans.
Yeah.
Ewoks were fine.
The Ewoks were fine, but the Gungans were too much.
Yeah.
Well, that one Ewok dying and the other Ewok going, Mama, Mama. Saddest death scene in cinema history.
Yeah. So,
hate to see it.
Hate to see it. Yeah. Now, we love we love the original series, and that's why they take up slots 2, 3, and 4. But the best movie is Revenge of the Sith, ranked by all three of us as either the best or second best movie.
Revenge of the Sith, barring one scene in particular, is the best. It is fantastic.
And it's the rare movie in the series where the heel wins the third act. Because the Star Wars follow the trend of the babyface wins the first act, the heel wins the second act, the babyface wins the third. The heel wins in this one.
Yes.
This movie was under the most pressure of any movie in cinema history. You had to tie the ridiculousness of the first and the second movies as best you could with the entirety of the original trilogy and make it all make sense. And for the most part, they did a really good job of doing exactly that.
Exactly.
And that, I think, and especially with the way that the lightsaber scenes were, the kind of ways that they justified how the Jedi lost their power and the Sith took over and the Empire became a thing, how Darth Vader became Darth Vader, which is what everybody really wanted to know. If they had botched that, that could have ended the franchise. There would have been nothing for Disney to purchase.
Exactly.
And they ended up dominating it in a very meaningful way.
My second favorite scene in all of Star Wars is, if you go to the scene selection, it's called Immolation. It is when Darth Vader loses and he burns. That is just the most, oh my God, this is traumatizing.
It helps that Hayden Christensen got much better as an actor in this movie than he was in the second movie. And Ewan McGregor as at his best here as Obi-Wan. You can feel the sadness of the friendship deteriorating throughout the movie because you see what's happening to Anakin and what's going on. And Obi-Wan knew. He knew about what Anakin and Padme were doing. And he was there as his friend saying, we can work together to save her. And Anakin's like, no, you're trying to take her away from me. And
that lightsaber duel on Mustafar, oh my God.
Overrated.
I will kill
you. Overrated as fuck. It's terrible. No. I'm kidding.
I would say that I liked Palpatine and Windu better. But there were so many fights in this movie. And they were paced. They were paced perfectly, though. It slowed down when it needed to slow down, but sped up right as it was starting to drag. And it got right back into where you needed it to be. There was a lot of, it was a wartime. A lot of it was very powerful to get the major lightsaber scenes, but you're also getting character development paying off in ways that you wouldn't normally. And also, all the credit in the world to John Williams.
Oh yeah.
Without John Williams, this movie does not work. But this was an all-around one of the greatest scores. Also, it tied with Michael Giacchino's ever written.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
This movie had the very difficult task of having to be perfect on every single front. Because even if one little thing was lacking, this is a movie where it would have been panned. Like, honestly, you're right about the pressure of this movie, and there's honestly not even a bad thing to talk about with this movie, at least I can think of.
Yeah. No, I've got no complaints with it at all.
I have the one scene with Anakin and Padme where they're talking about moving to Naboo and raising their babies there. You're so beautiful. It's because I'm so in love.
Well, yeah.
That scene is not very good, but very, very minute in the grand scheme.
Yeah, but at least there was just one of them instead of 1,000 of them, like in Attack of the Clones.
Well, but I mean, you had to have that kind of scene in there.
Yes,
as
you did.
Cheesy as it was,
you did,
to kind of be like remind people. Yeah, Anakin is thinking about his wife and his kids, which eventually would be Luke and Leia, all things considered.
Yep.
We get to learn why they're there. We learned how Obi-Wan and Yoda became Force ghosts. Never explained how Darth Vader learned how to become a Force ghost, by the way.
Also, just for what it's worth, it is kind of lame to be like, okay, I got burned and I've lost 3 limbs and I'm burnt to a crisp and I'm still going to get a breathalyzer and, I'll get this big-ass suit and I'll be fine. Padme's like, I was slightly choked, which I liked in bed anyway. I'm going to just die. Because I'm sad.
Luke and Leia were conceived to a Force choke.
I'm sad. I die.
I'm sad. Dead.
Well, I mean, the whole thing is that she's choked by the love of her life and not in a good way. Basically, she said the safe word and he kept going.
And then she tells Obi-Wan the safe word, which is, there's good in him. And then dies. But, still, even with that little minor snafu, this was an all-around... This made the series as a whole become something bigger than any one movie.
Exactly. This movie made it a saga.
Yeah. And say what you want about the prequels, because, like you said, Josh, again, there was a lot of hate on the prequels. But this still tied things together in a way where you could accept the first 2 movies because of how the third one tied it all together. You could take the good from Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones and be fine with it because Revenge of the Sith was so good at making you realize why things were the way they are, with the kind of psychological scarring that took place on all fronts to lead to where they were.
Completely redeems and forgives all of the issues that I have with the Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones. I completely forgive both of those movies for their shortcomings because this one, the finale of this trilogy, is so mind-bogglingly good.
Skylar?
And it's going to live on as one of the better Star Wars movies. And as long as Star Wars keeps making movies, who knows? They may get better.
We'll keep adding to the bottom of the list. And it'll...
Because, now Rey has to start the Jedi Order and shit. That's not going to be fun.
With her yeller lightsaber.
I'm not looking forward to more Star Wars movies. That's a good way to close this, kind of. Why don't we just all talk about, like, where do you think this franchise is headed? Now that we've got all this, we've ranked all these movies, where do you, not even just creatively speaking, but what do you think Disney's going to do with Star Wars going forward?
They've been doing a lot of TV series on
Yeah.
Disney Plus. The thing is that they're going to try and put more content on Disney Plus. Like, there's supposed to be another one that's like a spin-off TV series about a character from Rogue One. You notice that they haven't done anything with any of the sequel characters. They've done stuff either with characters from the prequels, or they've done stuff with characters from the standalones or the original trilogy. So
it wouldn't draw. I don't think the
draw,
sequel characters would draw.
No, not compared to the Ahsoka series that's rumored, or the Book of Boba Fett which came out, or the Kenobi series that just came out and has season 6 episode. I haven't seen it yet. Don't talk to me about it. It's really good.
I'm not going to spoil it, but the Obi-Wan Kenobi show, a lot of people don't like it, but it has the Josh Hagedorn seal of approval, which The Force Awakens also has the Josh Hagedorn seal of approval. And The Last Jedi also has the Josh Hagedorn seal of approval. So take that for what you will.
All right, good night.
I hate you.